Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. Unfiltered commentary. And not your truth, the real truth. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for your support. Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner from PJ Media. Here it comes. It's not even the middle of April yet. We're looking at what? February, March. We haven't even been in 100 days yet. And here it is. President Joe Biden. And I'll be respectful and say president because that's what he is. I don't have to like it. No amendment to the Constitution is absolute. Guys, this is a problem. This isn't about guns. This isn't about anything else. They had this ideology that rights are given to people by government. The founding fathers specifically said, made it crystal clear. Rights are given to people by God. Now, those of you who don't believe in God, call it inherent human right. Automatically given. Automatically there. Cannot be taken away. We have a problem. Let's read on, and I'll tell you what I really think is going on. On Thursday, President Joe Biden announced new executive actions on gun control trying to limit ghost guns and make it easier for people to flag their own family members who shouldn't be allowed to purchase firearms. In announcing his gun restrictions, Biden specifically addressed the Second Amendment. While Biden insisted that none of his gun control measures impinged on the Second Amendment, he also insisted no amendment to the Constitution is absolute. In the state of Hawaii, they have 0 concealed permits in the state. Legal. 0. It's before the Ninth Circuit now, and I think it'll be overturned. You do have a right to bear arms. A human, fundamental, or if you believe in God, a God-given right. Either way, it comes out the same. Nothing I'm about to recommend in any of it impinges on the Second Amendment. They're phony arguments suggesting that these are Second Amendment rights at stake for what we're talking about, he argued. Then came the key statement. No amendment to the Constitution is absolute. The Bill of Rights are amendments to the Constitution, and they are absolute, especially the first and the second. I think it was David Chappelle said once, even though what he believes in politically, I don't believe in, he's pretty satirical when it comes to each side of the aisle. He said the Second Amendment is their second, just in case the First Amendment doesn't work out. And think about that. It's funny, but at the same time, it's funny because it's true. You can't yell fire in a crowded movie theater. Well, about 50-odd years ago, the court ruled that you could. Recall this freedom of speech. From the very beginning, you couldn't own any weapon you wanted to own. That's a lie. You could. From the very beginning, the Second Amendment existed. Certain people weren't allowed to have weapons. Yeah, certain people. It's wrong. You're right. Some people weren't allowed to have weapons. If I recall correctly, certain races, certain classes of people, yeah, it was wrong, and it was corrected. So the idea is just bizarre to suggest that some of the things we're recommending are contrary to the Constitution. Gun violence in this country is an epidemic. If they gave 2 shits about people dying from guns, they would be all over Chicago. They would be all over LA. They would be all over Milwaukee. They would be all over New York City, and on and on and on. And 99.99% of those killings in those cities are with unlawful, illegal firearms. The epidemic is the one they created with their policies in these inner cities. Then they turn around and cause a problem. And here's the weird part. These so-called Democrat progressive leftists are so hell-bent on protecting non-white people. The vast majority of killings in all of these cities are non-white people. Yet you hear this. Crickets. Crickets. What is really going on here? Are they just throwing raw meat at the left base of their party? At the leftists in the party just to shut them up? I'm not so sure. Biden did not citing of the founders to support his idea that gun rights have had limits from the very beginning. As Justin Hastings wrote in The Hill, the father of the Constitution, James Madison, assured Americans that the creation of a federal government would not involve the loss of this liberty. James Madison, by the way, has probably lost more brain cells when he was alive than Biden even has. If you wanted to pick the two smartest out of the founders, Hamilton and Madison would probably ace the SATs. Pretty smart guys. This is Madison talking. Notwithstanding the military establishments in several kingdoms of Europe, Madison wrote in Federalist 46. By the way, if you can get a copy of the Federalist Papers, read them, which are carried as far as the public resources will bear. The governments are afraid to trust the people with arms. It is not certain that with this aid alone, they would not be able to shake off their yokes. But were the people to possess the additional advantages of local governments chosen by themselves, who could collect the national will and direct the national force, and of officers appointed out of the militia by these governments, attached to both them and to the militia, it may be affirmed with great assurance that the throne of every tyranny in Europe would be speedily overturned in despite of the legions which surround it. What he's basically saying is, if you have a corrupt national government, which we do now, and say even the courts become corrupt, it is duty bound by the states and the local municipalities to uphold the national laws and the Constitution. That's in essence what he's saying. And the writer puts his interpretation on it. The whole point Madison was making that there are militias and local governments are deterrent against an authoritarian national force. Yeah, same thing. Samuel Adams said the Bill of Rights include a guarantee that the Constitution be never construed to authorize Congress to prevent the people of the United States who are peaceful citizens from keeping their own arms. While Americans generally agree that only peaceful citizens should bear arms, gun control measures often go further. The key aspect of Biden's statement has to do with constitutional amendments overall. And this is the paragraph here that's the most important. Biden is laying the groundwork for carving out exceptions to key constitutional rights. It's not just gun control. Biden supports the Obamacare contraceptive mandate that would remove religious freedom exemptions for Catholic nuns like the Little Sisters of the Poor. Biden also supports the Equality Act, which explicitly undermines the First Amendment guarantee of free exercise of religion, and the 1993 Religious Freedom Restoration Act. Biden supports H.R. 1, the Democrats' election boondoggle, among other things, eviscerates free speech in politics by mandating donor disclosure. When Biden said no amendment to the country is absolute, he wasn't just talking about the Second Amendment. Yes, this is only the beginning, folks. The beginning. What went on in Georgia we won't talk about for the two Senate special elections. We're not going to talk about the presidential election. We all have our opinions. We all believe what happened. We all do our research. We came to conclusions. Many of us came to conclusions without research, but most of us did. And we have what we have now. You can't go back in time. You can't unseat this man. You can't change the members of Congress so Republicans have a majority. You can't change the Senate. The Republicans have a majority until the next election. Like it or not, think it's fair or not, those are the facts. They're etched in stone. You can't change them. We need to hold on for a year and 8 months. Remember, the Democrats only hold a majority in the House by 5 votes. And I believe a gentleman died recently, so it's 4 votes now. It's that tight. So that really means only 3 Democrats have to say no to some of this craziness for it to stop. Just 3 out of over 200. It's important that all of us out here get a hold of every Democrat Congress member and continuously call and send emails and be polite. No threats of violence, no bad language, saying that if you vote for this crazy stuff and allow this to happen, I will organize, I will have people raise money and raise as much money as I can, or have the people raise as much money as they can to fund your opponent, no matter who it is. This is important. The First and Second Amendments are first and second for a reason. I kidded around what Dave Chappelle said, but he's pretty accurate. The First Amendment is sacrosanct, and the Second Amendment is the same. Folks, the First and Second Amendments are the hill to die on. They say, well, we're not going to expend our political capital and our energy and our resources to fight every single little thing that goes on. You're right. That's counterproductive. But the First and Second Amendment is the hills to die on. Without them, we are doomed. Think about this for a minute. And I'm not some tinfoil hat, militia, nut bar, QAnon person. I'm not. They believe what they believe. That's their right under the Constitution and just under normal fairness. They believe what they believe, and that's fine. But the thing of it is, why do these progressives and leftists and Democrats want to disarm so many people? Why? Because they have an agenda that's coming that the people won't like. And they've got power and they've got control. They're putting in jail people that were part of the Capitol riot, and many of them should go to jail. They were dumbasses. They hurt people. A woman got killed. They should go to jail just for destruction of property and being stupid. But for walking through the door, taking pictures at the ceiling, standing in front of the Capitol without going in, you're interrogated by the FBI for weeks. Something's going on here, folks. Something's going on. Why do they want to disarm as many people as they can? Not because there's murders in Chicago and many other cities. Think about that for a minute. This isn't about public safety. What a crock of bullshit. And normally I'm going to control my language as a rule because I'm in YouTube jail now with a warning on my channel about, God forbid, reporting on a Time magazine article, which was true, by the way, and factual. It's time. This is enough. Enough is enough. Criminals and bad guys will always have guns, no matter what the laws say. This is about disarming everyday, normal citizens. Last year, my understanding, gun sales went up 73%. The vast majority of all the new gun owners were women. Why? To protect their children and their families. Don't think for a minute, you young women out there with young children, that gun that you bought or you're considering purchasing, maybe a Glock, that some night when you hear somebody coming in, breaking in your apartment or your house, don't think for a minute that mother protecting her children will unload that whole clip into him before she asks questions later. Protection of her children is utmost important. And she'll ask questions later. But that woman now has the fear of having that protection taken away from her children and being mercilessly, God knows what will happen to them, and they'll be defenseless. And she's the mother. It's her job to protect them, and she can't. Think about that, women that are Democrats. Think about that. You're going to call a police officer as the guy's breaking in your house, and 20 minutes later, the police show up. Even if it's 10 minutes, it's still fast. It's too late by then. God knows what could happen. And some certain things that happen, I can't even say on this channel because this will get flagged. But we all know what I'm talking about. They're taking away the right to protect your families. That's not some right-wing talking point. The vast majority of new gun owners are women. They do it for one reason and one reason only, to protect their families, their children. Why are the people in Washington and in many state governments so afraid of their own people? Think about that long and hard. And until next time, goodbye and good luck.